Welcome to the live stream on the Report Designer tips and tricks for Sage 300. So in this live stream, we are going to show you a few things with the Report Designer module in Sage 300. And there are more advanced classes, but we're going to show you some of the functionality that you can learn or just have some information on for some tips and tricks. So first thing we're going to cover is how to get to and find the report you want to adjust. So in each module, there is a report manager menu right here that manages your reports. So what this does is you can add different reports that have been built with Report Designer into these menus. So the report manager here, you can create the menu, and then you can create where you want this specific report in which menu. Just a quick tidbit there. Okay, so let's pull this up. You can see that I've got some reports already in here, and you can see my menu reconciliation. That would be this menu right here. So the report is after the dash, the actual name I've named it on the menu. Okay, so we're going to look at the entries by account. So it would be right here, entries by account. We're going to look at the location of where that is on my computer or server. Okay, so we're going to hit change. We're going to see this is the name of the report on my menu, and that's the menu group it's in. It's a Sage report. And the name here, you'll notice, doesn't exactly match the name that I put it on the menu, but that's okay. This is the actual file name. So I'm going to hit list here, and I'm going to go to my report folder structure. Okay, so right here is where the reports are stored by default in 300. So you want to find the Timberline Office 9.5 accounting report folder. That's where those templated reports are stored. Okay, so just how to get to it. So let's say I want to now edit this report. I'm going to get out of here now that I know where it's at. Go over to Report Designer up here. We're going to go and hit the open. And now it has defaulted me per my computer. My computer has remembered the last spot I went to in the Explorer area here. But again, if you need to go back up, you need to drill down into this path. Okay. So you can copy the name from the prior screen I was on, or you can type part of it and click on it and hit open. Okay. So first thing first, you always want to do a file save as, because when Sage 300 is updated, if you make changes to the default report, it overrides any changes you would make if you used this one. So you want to make sure you put something in front of it. So my initials mean, so best practice that we found is whoever did the edit to the report should put their initials in front, so you can ask that report author or that person who changed the report about it, right? And it's easy to find. You can, all my LH reports will be in order. You can also make a custom report folder right here by creating a new folder and calling it custom reports and put all the custom ones in there. Okay. I like to put them all in the same spot so I can see the other ones as I'm going through. Okay, so I'm going to save it as, and now I'm in a brand new duplicate kind of one. Okay, so once you do the save as, you want to make sure that you turn on some things and you unbold some of the bold titles and totals, and I'll show you in a second why. So first thing you want to do is you want to come in here and you want to turn on your field list. So you can see what fields are available with this report, and you want to turn on your print controls. Okay, so print controls are down here. We'll explain those a little bit here in a second. Next thing you want to do, you want to highlight anything that's bold and take the bold off. Okay, so see how it lines up a little bit better? So with the bold on, it kind of moves it because it's making it a little bit bigger. You can always, you're going to rebold it when you're done. Okay, so let's do this one too. I think that's a font or a character font change. Oh, we'll leave that one. It's not too out of line there. So having your field list up, having your print controls on helps when you're adjusting a report. The index button over here gets you all of the available tables that you can use on this report, depending on how the design had been initially created and built for this report. Okay, so you've got your different tables right here to play with, and Mike's going to cover this a little bit. So once you do this, you get your all this turned on and all the bold done, then you are at a point where you can start manipulating and doing things. So when you want to move something, you need to use the edit menu up here. So let's say I want to put some columns or some info in between right here. Okay, so you're going to want to do this edit and move once you highlight kind of a chunk you want to. And you want to basically use that. Let me get it working here. Use that to move over the data. If you don't do that, it doesn't move it quite right. This credit might stay here. These fields might go in a not aligned order. Okay, so it kind of moves it all together. Okay, there's also some other functions up here like clear and delete and inserting rows and columns. Okay, but I wanted to point this out that it's not as simple as just highlighting it, clicking and moving. Okay, if you want it to go well. Okay, and that's about all I wanted to cover on the initial part here. And now I'm going to kick it over to Mike, and he's going to go through a little bit more of the design features.
Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, one thing to note, you know, when you're in this designer is when regarding the print controls is it is color coded based on print controls. Sometimes it's tough to see. What I like to do is specifically click on a field that I'm looking to see how often it prints for. So for example, if I want to see how often the accounting date prints, I'll click on that. And then down here, it's going to say print once per transaction record. Okay. And we'll get into that a little bit later as to why I might want to change that or summarize that up as we get into this. So for example, if you look at the account and account title, that's only printing once per account. We don't want to print it every line, every transaction. It'll take up too much space. We want to print it once per account. And then the same thing for your account totals. It's going to print at the end of the account. Okay. So you can kind of see these print controls and how they function. First of all, like Lisa said, you want to have them turned on, and then you want to make sure that you click on the field you're looking to see how often it's printing for. Okay. So if we get into the design menu, there's a couple things you can do in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like we don't have any totals. So we're going to come back in here and I'm going to remove totals, and I'm going to remove those descriptions of the totals. And all I did was highlight it on the area I want. And in this case, I'm just going to hit the delete button on my keyboard, and that can remove that area there. Okay. So let's say we don't have totals on this report, but we want totals. So the first thing you need to make sure of, and most of the numeric fields come this way by default, but on the field itself, if you double click on it, it will tell you if this field should be totaled or not. So if you ever add a total and you don't see it carry down, it might be that this field isn't formatted to total, and usually you can just check this off and it will total for you. So in that scenario, I'm going to come into design and I'm going to click on totals. And it's going to give me some options. It's going to say, okay, based on our sort orders, which totals do you want to get for this transaction? Well, we want to see a total by account, right? And in this case, we don't want to see a total for every accounting date, but maybe you do if you have it in accounting date order. In this case, let's just do totals for accounts and totals for the overall report grand total. Okay, so you can check off which totals you want to do. I like this. You can also change the indicator as far as what represents a total. I like to use the overlines. And then you have the option of dropping the totals of one group, right? So if you have one transaction for this GL account, do you want another row for a total, or do you want to save some spacing? And that's what this drop total if only one prints, okay? We'll come back into summarization in a second, but under the totals is where you do summarization as well. So when I click OK, now it's going to pre-fill in the totals, and you'll know which level they are based on the print control. So if I click on this one, that's the account total. If I click on this one, that's the end of the report total. Now, sometimes what it does, it puts the headings over in the left. I like to highlight them. Now you can highlight and drag as well. But as you can see, sometimes that happens too because I am on a remote machine. But let's see if I can get this right here. And you can put it in there. So in this scenario, doesn't bring in the total description of the other. The only description it brings in is the grand total. So, you can put in whatever you want to call this. And then what I want to make sure of, just like I did on the field, is I want to make sure the account total is the same print control. So again, if I highlight the text, I can see print once per end of account. That looks good. Now, one thing I would recommend, especially if you've already saved it as, is save and save often. Depending on your screen settings and things like that, there might be a scenario where the report closes up on you and you just did about 5 changes and you didn't save it. So click this save button as much as possible. Okay. Then all of your latest changes will be saved if something happens to your connection.
And Mike, I was going to ask you too, on the print controls, can you show how you change the print controls?
Sure. Yeah. So for example, if I just want to see a date only, I don't want to see the date on every transaction line. I just want to see it only when it changes. So I can come here and click on this accounting date field, click on transaction record. And now instead of it for every transaction, I only want it to show it every time the accounting date changes, or when we start a new page. So you can reprint when the group is continued on a new page. Okay. And that will change the print controls of that. So if I click save and we do a print preview, we'll just show you quickly how that would look. And I'll just do a quick print preview. So you can see here how the accounting date is not printing here because it's the same on that line. So this is not the best example for it because it kind of makes the report hard to read, but you can see how that's going to show you here. These are all the transactions for 5/20 and they all happen on the same date there. Okay. Let's close that up. I always like to maximize my screen so that I can see the entire screen. The other thing you could do is summarize. Okay, so summarization can come in handy where you want the totals, and you want to do it off of a transaction record so that you can do a date range for it, but you don't need to see all the detail. You just want to summarize it up and total it at a certain level. So what you can do here is under Design Tools, I can change my summarization level. So instead of saying no summarization, I can say I only want to see it once per totaled per account, general ledger account. I only want one line per each general ledger account with the total for the period that I select. So I can say summarize by account. Now, when I do that, because I summarize it up, it says, okay, well, if you're summarizing by account, we're not going to give you account totals because you're already going to have that, because that's the summarization. Okay. So now, once I've turned the summarization on, I really have to make sure my print controls are correct. So at the transaction detail, so debit and credit is what you want to sum up. You always want to leave those on the lowest level. So see how these are on print once per transaction record? We're going to leave it at print once per transaction record because it's numeric. I mean, it's a number and it's going to add it up. If we summarize this up, it doesn't work. So you want to leave this at the detailed. But some of these other fields now, first of all, might be irrelevant. So like if you're summarizing, you're probably not going to have a counting date on the report. So you would have it in the prompt. That's it. So you might delete that. I'm going to leave it on there for now. But one of the things is the account and account title. Well, that's going to print on one line now. So let's see if we can get these bolds off. Did you get this? You had I wonder if it had to.
I think it was.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's something weird. Okay, whatever. We can make this work. So in this scenario, I don't want to waste a row here because I'm summarizing by account title. So I'm going to take this whole section. I'm going to be a little more creative here because I can line my columns up after. But I'm going to try and move this all up the same line. I can do this carefully. Come on. Got it. Okay. And then I would have to adjust my column headings a little bit. And I'll just move the debit and credit over because that's what we're really looking for here. Okay, so now before something messes up, I'm going to click save here. And then I might fix my gap, move this up, that type of thing. All right, so, and you can see I didn't do that, right? That's why you want to use the move function that Lisa showed you. Going to get it. Okay. So I have that all in one line, but now I need to make sure my print controls are correct. So anything that's static, like account and account number, you want to make sure that it's at the summarization print control. It's at account. So maybe you were printing this once for every transaction. You want this to be on the account now because it's only going to show one line. So when the reality is you probably have all of this as one line. You probably wouldn't have this detail in that report. But I'll just make it all only one per account here.
And that's really cool too. You can do it all at once and not just one by one.
Right.
Change the print control.
Yeah, good point there. So you see what I did there? Instead of clicking on each print control, I can highlight the whole section that's the same. You want to be careful you're not touching anything else. But if I do that, it'll tell me the print control for that whole group. And in this case, it's correct. It's on account. Yep, good point. And the other scenario now is because, again, I'm trying to make this simple and save spaces here. The other thing you want to do is check your line spacing. You'll see this line spacing. If I click it here, right now it's printing a double space for each account. Well, I'm going to do single because I want this to just see in each row for each account. So I'm going to go single spacing, and I'm going to click save. So now, if I run this report, and you might just do it for a particular date range or a particular account, I'm just going to let it run and see all the accounts here. And once I do that, only 2 pages now. Now we have to fix the settings here a little bit on the right, but you can kind of see here that it's printed, let me hit next here, one line per account, okay, in the setup. So that's how to do some summarizations. You can also do page breaks. So if we do take this back to, let's take this back to transaction. And let's just put everything at transaction for now. And let's turn the summarization off under design totals. Say no summarization. And we'll give our account totals back here too. Okay, save that. Now I might want to, do my line spacing different, things like that. But what you can do is for the page breaks is you do have what's called group page breaks. So you can say, all right, we have an unconditional page break, which means no matter what, I want each account to start on a new page. Okay. Or I can say, well, I only want to start a new page if all the detail for that account doesn't fit on half of the page. So you can do conditional versus unconditional, and it gives you a good description of what it needs to be there. Okay, so you can do group page breaks, and we'll touch on prompt windows. So these become important in the system. And with that, what I mean by that is when you go and run these designs, for example, you might have, if I go and hit print, you get these, you can have these options here. So when I come into it now, these are prompt fields here. So you can make these fields yourself. We have accounting date from, accounting date to. Now you have ranges and conditions, but basically these prompt fields are for basically any condition that you keep doing over and over again. If you're always finding yourself going in and adding a condition on this report, make a prompt field for it. And then you can just key it in instead of clicking the conditions button. So for example, maybe I'm always just picking a particular module these entries come from. So let's make a prompt field. So we'll go prompt window, and we're going to make a required prompt window. And I'm going to click where you want it to show up on the form. I'll click it there, and I'm going to create a field. And I'm going to say application of origin. That's where it's telling you where this transaction originally came from. Okay. You could just make that a text field. So you just type in AP, GL, PR. You can also make it a drop-down list here. So you could set up the AP, the AR, and have it print in from a drop-down. I'm just going to make it a text field for this. The application of origin is only 2 digits. It abbreviates it. So I'm just going to use 2 digits for my size. I don't want to make it a required. Well, let's make it a required entry, or you can turn it on and off for required or not. And you can make a constant value. So I like this field because I can say typically I want to see all the transactions that were coming from accounts payable. So I can say always let that AP be the pre-fill for me, and then I can change it if I need to.
And it's really easy to change it too. Like it'll pop it in. Yeah. And you don't have to do a condition or something to get it off. And
it looks like I typed something in wrong here. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so there's my application of origin. Click OK. Now, I've put it on as a prompt field, but I haven't built anything that says what to do when I select that. So step 1 would be to create that prompt field. Step 2 would be to go up to design and add a condition. So any condition you add here will save in the report, so you don't have to keep doing it every time. So you don't need a prompt field for a condition. You could just add another condition in the design. But we'll click add here, and we're going to say GL transaction, and we want to find the application of origin. You could page down through this. You can also click order and go alphabetical.
Oh, I forgot about that. Nice.
Yep. I never use alphabetical because I know where they are, but yeah. But a lot of users use alphabetical. It's just application of origin. So you select it, equal to. Now, sometimes you can just put a value in here if you only want it to be AP all the time. You could build that condition in. But in this scenario, we want it to be equal to whatever we type it in as of. So if you click list items, one of the things you can go to is you can click index and you'll see your prompt fields. And that's where these are all saved that we just created. So we want to get to our prompt fields and we want to say application of origin is equal to whatever we type in on this prompt field, application of origin. Okay, click OK. It shows it here. It's an AND condition. And last but not least, make sure you save. And now if I run this report, when I click print, it's going to ask me, there's my counting date to and from. There's the AP that pre-filled in. If I'm happy with AP, I can just hit print preview and it will show me just transactions that came from accounts payable, 11 pages. Okay. AP print check summaries, check summaries. If I change this, let's say now we want to see just things that were keyed in directly to general ledger, GL, and we run that preview, 3 pages. Okay, so it is doing the condition for you, and that's just showing you miscellaneous general ledger entries, adjustments, and things like that. Prompt fields and parameters can be used for all different sorts of things, checkboxes, date fields. Basically, the rule of thumb is, hey, if you're adding this condition over and over again, either save the condition in the design or build a prompt field for it as well. I think that covers it for me, Lisa. I think there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Data file selections.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you notice when I was hitting print every time, and this is a common question we get from clients is, hey, why do I always have to select this file? Okay, I always have to select current, new, or history. Well, it's meant there to give you the flexibility to report on historical information that's been archived versus information that hasn't been posted yet. But you can have this stuff pre-fill for you. So that's data file selections. So in design, you can click on data file selections. You could do a couple things. You can say, I always want to look at the current file, and that's it. So you can say, just select the current file, unselect the select when printed, and it won't even ask you for the file names. What most people do is this: select when printing, but highlight the file you most commonly use. So what that does is now I will save it, right? When I print it here, notice it still asks me for the data files, but it already picks the current file. So I only have to click OK here. And that's better for me than having to check these off every time. Now, for this time, if I do want to see just transactions that haven't posted, I can change it if I want to. But for most of the time, I want it to default like that.
So,
okay,
Mike,
so that's data files.
If you don't select when printing, it's just going to bypass that screen.
It's just going to bypass it. So
okay.
Yeah. So if I go into here, data file selections, and I just unselect that, just say current file. Now when I go to do it, it doesn't even ask me. It goes right into the preview. The only thing I don't like about that is you're not 100% sure what file it's actually reporting off of.
Yep.
So I usually say, unless you're certain that's the only file you want, to at least leave the select when printing selected for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Lisa, and then with that, I'll send it back to you, and you can talk about some of the other things that you wanted to make sure we touched on.
Okay. So basically, I was just going to cover the last menu item up here. And Mike, feel free to jump in too. Sure. But the available fields here, this is an area where, as we've talked about during this live stream, there's tables. So for example, this GL transaction over here, this table, and these are all the fields that make up this table. Okay, so these are all the different tables that Sage has. Now, it's hard to remember what field is in which table, right? So
Right.
this area lets you, for example, GL account format, GL account, GL transactions. Maybe I want to see what fields are where inside of the system. Also, this ODBC reporting you want to turn on. This is a more advanced feature, but you want to see if it's ODBC writable or readable, excuse me. Then you want to click that box. So it tells
that'll just
you
give
if it
you
is or
the
not.
that'll give you the max information that you can see on that file, that record. Yeah.
Yep.
Looks good.
Yep, exactly. So basically this gives you, for this table, what fields are in that table. Also gives you links. It gives you these values that you can pick from, or what these values mean. So anything else here on Mike you want to?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, like, a lot of times if you're looking at documents, or you have statuses, you have type of transaction. A good one is type of transaction, and sometimes you're trying to condition on that and you don't know what the value needs to be in the condition. That's where these lists come in handy, because they show you, what is the value, what's the availability for that record. I'm trying to get to another report here. GL account. Okay, here's a good one. General ledger accounts. This is the chart of accounts, and I clicked way too much. But right here, account type. You want to run a report and you want to condition on just your income accounts. Well, what is it called in the system, and what do I need to condition on it? Usually you can just condition it right on the values here. Income. So it's called income. So you don't have to wonder, is it like some of these ones that are abbreviated, non-current liability. You need to make sure it's cap or not capped, so you need to know the exact value. And this does a really good job of showing you that without going in and selecting the table and creating a report and then having to close it because it's not right, and then picking another table and then picking another table. You can kind of preview this report, and you can print this out. It's nice to have this handy next to you on your desk while you're designing a report, instead of scrolling around, which is nice too. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yes, it is. So beyond this, one of the last things we wanted to show you was the formulas. So we're not going to go into formula writing. That's more an advanced topic. But we want to show you a little bit about the formula screen here. So number one, blow it up so you can see the whole formula. That's a good tip there. Index here will give you your design and public formulas. The design formulas, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they're kind of housed in the specific data folder you're in. So we're in Timberline Construction Company. They're
in the actual report design.
Yes,
itself.
in the report design.
This individual report design.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And then the public formulas you can share across different companies even. Is that correct, Mike?
Yep. You can share it across data folders and reports. So, instead of creating the 10 formulas that are the same in 10 different reports, you can have that formula pointing directly to a public formula. Okay. Now, the risk in that is the public formulas sometimes can get accessed by others and deleted. So somebody might have access to a public formula and delete it because they think it's not being used, and it's in another report. I would recommend using public formulas to share your formulas, but copying them over into the individual report's design, so it's saved inside the report. So perfect. Yeah. So if you like this formula that's in this report, you want to use it somewhere else, copy it from, or vice versa, or copy it from public formulas into this individual report. Yep. And then go ahead and click OK. That moves it into the individual design. And then any changes you make here, first of all, won't change or mess up the public formula. And then this is why you want to save and save often. But now you can make specific changes to the formula right within the design and still not have to recreate it every time, just kind of copy it back and forth. So that's kind of the premise there, is if you find a formula you like, copy it into your public formula, and then you can use that various places in the other designs as you're progressing through this.
Okay, open your report designer back up here.
Yep. At least I just thought of one other thing, and we can close on that too. Is okay. So, you just created this report. You saved it with a different name. How do I get it back on the menu now, Lisa?
Exactly.
Right.
Good one.
So yeah, that would be a good one to show somebody how to do that.
So, anything else on formulas we want to talk about that you can think of?
Yeah, I would recommend, the help. The nice thing in the formulas here in the help is you can see a lot of the actual functions, and they give you good examples of the functions. So if you're not sure how to do an a sum or a different formula function, I believe you can type, see them on the left. They show you all the functions in there, and they'll show you examples of it. So a lot of times you can find what you're looking to do by scrolling through this help and clicking on one of the functions, and that's what I want to do. And then you have then it shows you the whole examples of it and how it can be used. So it's really helpful, a good starting place to getting into formulas. So yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So back to what Mike was saying. So if you want to put it on the menu there, you can hit new, or let's say you want to replace the GL entries by account with your custom one. You can change it and point to the one that I created instead. So,
and what's really nice here is instead of browsing to it, if you've named it correctly and simple, all you've done in this case is use the same name but put your initials in front. You don't even have to go into this browser here. Hit cancel for a second. Yeah. So it's very important with the naming structures. If you keep it consistent, right, you can just go to that file name. Yeah, go ahead and do that again. And yeah, it's the same design. I just put my initials in front of it. There you go. It'll find it. And that's what's really nice about really considering your naming conventions when you can, do it like that. Now, if it was a new menu item, which you may want to do too, a lot of people will kind of want to leave the out of the box reports alone and create their own subheading for just custom reports. Mm-hmm. So you can go into Report Manager and hit New, and call it whatever you want. So we'll just call it Lisa's Entries by Account Report. And put a new menu group called Custom Reports. Usually is the most common one. Something like that.
Wrong,
you still
wrong
there?
Key there? Yep.
I'll say. It's almost closing time. 5 o'clock somewhere. So you can put it to an existing menu group, or you can just type in Custom Reports, and it'll create a new menu group for you. Now, in this case, you have to browse for it, right? Because it doesn't have a name to go find.
But if you get part of
and
it.
And then the LH works great. Yep. Mm-hmm. There it is. It already found it. Yep. That's nice.
And then there you go. Hit OK to that.
Yep.
Close this. Give it a second. It takes a minute to go.
One thing to consider here while we're waiting for that is if you do have specific security setup, that if you create a new report in the menu, make sure you go into your security setup and give those roles or users access to that new report if you want them to. A lot of times people forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So here, it creates the new menu item custom.
Look at that. Yep.
Nice. And then here you can also arrange your reports a bit in the order you want.
Yeah.
Move them up and down and such.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Mike, that you can think of?
No, I think that's pretty good. Those are some simple tools that can get you on your way. And like I said, is the biggest thing is not to be afraid, and just make sure you save as. And then just put them somewhere that, especially until you're ready to deploy them out, the report menus, maybe have a specific menu that you keep for in progress designs that you can put on and test before you put them on a main menu. But just keep it organized and save as, and if it doesn't work, delete it and start again and save as on top of it. So go for it.
All right. Well, thanks for attending the live stream, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.